Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmIOverReacting for you all. As per usual, I'll be going through the post, giving you my opinion at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Specken Sie Deutsch. Am I overreacting? My ex-wife and her new husband legally made their last name my full fucking name. You cannot make this shit up. I was married once. My ex-wife blew it all to hell by cheating on me with one of my closest fucking friends. That betrayal crushed me. But whatever, I rebuilt. She kept my last name after the divorce. Weird, but I let it go. Fast forward. She marries the guy she cheated with. Fine. Closure. Good for them. But here's where it goes off the rails. Her new husband's last name is the same as my first name. So when they hyphenated, their big shiny new marriage surname is now my entire fucking legal name. Imagine your name is David Carter. The guy she cheats on with is named John David. They marry, hyphenate, and proudly announce themselves as Mr. and Mrs. David Carter, which is literally your name. They're on Facebook, smiling, posting, "Here's to the new official Mr. and Mrs. David Carter." Meanwhile, I'm staring at my phone thinking, holy fuck, my ex-wife and her partner just legally rebranded themselves as me. And no, my name isn't common. People are going to see it and assume it's me. So tell me, am I losing my mind here, or is this just as completely fucked up as it feels? Edit, I'm not on their social media. A mutual acquaintance sent me a screenshot with the adjoining text, "What the fuck is wrong with them?" Edit 2. If anybody would like proof, please wager $20 or more, and I will gladly supply you proof and my Venmo. So, buddy, the first thing you need to do is freeze your credit right goddamn now. Anything that can be at potential risk for identity theft needs to be locked the hell down ASAP. Thankfully, it seems other people in the comment section have recommended this, thankfully. But additionally, you're not crazy. This is really weird. There is at least the fact that the one saving grace that you have is the fact that for the rest of their lives, your ex-wife is going to be reminded of your existence, no matter what. You will quite literally live rent-free in her head for the rest of her life, as long as she remains married, I suppose. But in the end, in an awkward and just really strange scenario like this, better safe than sorry. Do what you can to protect yourself from all kinds of identity theft, because who knows where they're going to try to put their paws. Even if they don't hold any nefarious intentions, you may as well just make sure that you're going to be safe. Upstairs ad 5355. Am I overreacting for towing my roommate's boyfriend from my paid parking spot? I'm 31 female, and I share a 2-bedroom apartment with a 27 female roommate. Our building has a few parking spaces that are reserved for tenants, which I pay an extra $180 a month for because I work late shifts. And don't want to have to look for a place to park on the street at 1 a.m. When she moved in, I made it very clear that my parking space is mine, and that the lease contains a rule about towing unauthorized cars in paid-for-tenant spots. And she told me that she understood. A few weeks later, her boyfriend started borrowing my spot without permission. I left a note and sent her a text to inform her nicely the first time. The second time, I found him while I was coming back from the store and asked him nicely to not park in my spot because it's not his, and I pay for it, so I'd like to use it. He laughed and said it was just a few hours. I ended up parking on the street, and that caused me to get a $75 ticket. The third time was the worst. When I came home at midnight, his car was already parked in my parking spot. I drove around for half an hour before finally parking on the street and once again ended up with a $75 ticket. I texted my roommate and asked her to make things right. She replied that she was sorry, but didn't offer to pay me back. She assured that it wouldn't happen again. Last Thursday, it happened again. When I got there at 1 a.m. and saw his car, I just sat there with that awful feeling in my stomach. I took a picture of the plate and the reserve sign with my apartment number and called the tow company that was listed in the lobby. They came in 20 minutes, towed his car, so I parked mine and went up to my room and just went to sleep. About an hour later, my friend barges into my room in panic, says her boyfriend had went down and his car was gone. She yelled at me, saying that I should have called them first, asking to move the car, and not having it towed. I said I had already called her many, many times, and she didn't want to help me. Instead, I got multiple parking tickets for this, and she told me I was doing too much, and that it's not that big of a deal. Now he has to pay $275 to get his car back. The next day, she wanted me to cover the towing fee, and I told her I would be more than happy to split the difference if she covered my parking tickets first, and the next month's parking fee, since I could not use the space. She says I'm blackmailing her, and I've went too far with the towing. Right now, the atmosphere in our place is super awkward and tense. Maybe I could have tried calling one more time, but I paid for the spot, and I wanted to use it. I have asked many times, and she never cared to help me. Did I overreact by towing her car? This is just a classic situation of fuck around and find out. You told them numerous times that this is your spot, you want to park in it, you were collecting parking fees, they laughed it off, gave you a false apology, never offered to help, and you made it crystal clear from the beginning that this was your spot, no one else's, because you pay for it. They thought they could continue to take advantage of your unwillingness to take any action towards it for the first 4 times, or 3 times, give or take. And eventually, you snapped. You went through with your threat. And now they're upset that they didn't heed your warning. Why should you have to pay $275, $150 in parking tickets, the spot and how much it costs, just for her boyfriend to use it instead of you? How is that fair? If she wants her boyfriend to have parking, she can pay for his fucking spot. How about that instead? The atmosphere is only tense because they've decided to take advantage of you, and they got bit while doing it. Zesty Close Ad 9510. Am I overreacting? Walked out at my mother's birthday dinner. Last night was my mom's birthday, so the whole family got together at a nice Italian restaurant we usually go to. About halfway through, my brother stood up to make a toast. Instead of saying something sweet about my mom, he decided to joke about how I'm the family screw-up who can't keep a job or a relationship. Happy birthday, Mom! You raised 3 great kids. And then there's you, still trying to figure everything out. Everyone laughed. My mom laughed. I just sat there, burning up inside. I've been through a really rough year, divorce plus job change, and instead of support, they turned it into a punchline. I told my brother to shut up, and my dad immediately jumped in saying, "Don't ruin your mother's night." So, I grabbed my stuff and left. Later, I got a barrage of texts in a family group chat saying I embarrassed the family and made it all about me. Now I'm sitting here wondering, am I overreacting, or was I completely justified in walking out? I can't take a joke, but with the way my mind has been recently, I took it seriously. Your family sucks and you should get a new one. Like, the idea that your brother just gets to make you the laughingstock of the family, and you can't even defend yourself or argue against it because it'll upset your mother, is ridiculous. And honestly, you chose to do probably one of the more mature things you could. You didn't escalate the situation, you didn't try to ruin the dinner, you just decided to remove yourself from a situation that you were uncomfortable from. It's incredibly cruel that when you're at a moment where you're currently down on your luck, that your brother decides to make you the butt of the joke. If I were to guess, he's probably pretty insecure about himself, and he likes hitting people while they're down to elevate his own feelings about where he stands in life. You don't need to take that shit. And if they're gonna treat you like this, then yeah, walk away. Not just from the dinner. Walk away from them. If they want you part of their life, then they should be the ones to have to bridge that gap and apologize towards you. And most certainly, don't apologize for standing up for yourself. Electrical Gap 2122. Am I overreacting? My husband deleted all his social media apps right before his surgery. My husband was scheduled for a medical procedure at the hospital due to some reoccurring health issues. He's still young, but has been dealing with chronic kidney problems that needed more intensive treatment. A few days ago, his symptoms flared up badly. Severe back pain and swelling. I convinced him he needed to go to the ER, so at 2 a.m., we were admitted. The doctors decided he needed a procedure under general anesthesia to place a temporary stent. Before they took him back, he had to give me his phone and other belongings to hold during the surgery. While he was in the operating room, his phone kept getting notifications. When I went to check if any of them were from the doctors or important family updates, I realized he had deleted Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook. All apps that were definitely there just yesterday, when we were showing each other funny videos while waiting in the ER. This seemed really strange, because he's always been pretty active on social media, especially Instagram, where he posts gym updates and connects with old friends. We've never been secretive about our phones or social media accounts. I'm probably just stressed and overthinking because I'm terrified about his health. But the timing feels weird. Why would someone delete their social media right before going under anesthesia? We did have some issues in the past before we were married. He had been messaging an ex-girlfriend inappropriately. I forgave him and we worked through it. Maybe I'm just exhausted and paranoid from sitting in this hospital all night worrying about him. We have 2 small kids at home and there's so much going on right now. I love him so much and I'm genuinely scared about what could happen during this procedure. Am I reading too much into this, or should I ask him about it once he's recovered? Please be kind, I'm just a mess of worry and sleeplessness right now. Thanks in advance. At the highest form of benefit of the doubt, maybe he doesn't want to wake up loopy after surgery and start posting embarrassing things to social media. Highest form of benefit of the doubt. Realistically, I'm left in the position that he has something to hide. That him knowing that he's going to be under surgery with you having unfettered access to his phone, his first reaction is, well, better make sure that no incriminating notifications will pop up, and additionally remove any chance of my wife finding any incriminating chats or messages or honestly anything that could be on those social media accounts. And honestly, considering the fact that you two have a history of him being unfaithful, it really does feel like it's the latter rather than the former. No matter what, I would start by just opening with a conversation of, hey, when you went under surgery, why did you delete all of your social media? And if his reaction or explanation doesn't satisfy you, then don't be afraid to start considering your exit plans. I know that you guys have 2 kids together, and that does make separation far more complicated, but it's also not worth staying in a relationship for the sake of kids when your husband's being unfaithful, and clearly keeping secrets. Look at where your life might be going, decide if you'll be happy going that direction, and if not, look at what to do next. Hey Gara, am I overreacting? My 28 female, boyfriend 35 male, told me I need to maintain my body because he's a high-value man. I recently moved into my boyfriend's apartment about 2 weeks ago, and since then, I've been seeing a darker side of his personality. He started telling me what clothes to wear, how I should style my hair. He discourages me from going out on my own. He's also been pushing me to cut off some of my friends. Last night he told me that I should stop eating dinner altogether because, in his words, I'm a high-value man, so I can be picky with women. For context, he earns a decent salary, but he's far from being rich or a millionaire. Nothing about my weight or physique has changed since we met. I've always had an athletic build, just about 15 pounds over the ideal BMI, and he constantly used to call me sexy and beautiful. This shift feels sudden and confusing. He invited me to move in rent-free. I still work and pay all my own bills, so I don't depend on him financially. I've been with him for 8 months, and this side of him didn't show up until I moved in. I feel conflicted and just need to hear other perspectives. Yeah, so here's what you should do. Pack your bags and get out. I'm not being dramatic here either. You need to get away from this. This is some pretty disgusting controlling behavior. From isolating you from your friends, to controlling what you can and can't eat, to controlling what you wear, how you present yourself, attempting to control what you do with your own time and preventing you from going out on your own, to then hitting you with some pretty goddamn cringe manosphere language. Get out of this relationship. If he's such a high-value man, he can find someone else. This is not what you want to be with. Get the hell away from him. He's not looking for a relationship, he's looking for a pet. Something that's more akin to being property than an actual person. There is no coincidence that this behavior is just now coming out because you've moved in with him. This is not something new and out of nowhere. This was planned. This is who he is. A lot of people have thankfully mentioned a lot of this stuff in the comments on this post, but more importantly, if you make any plans to get out of there, make sure you are not alone, people are aware of what's going on, and additionally, make sure you have full control of your birth control. The only reason why you feel conflicted, OP, is because you saw the person who you wanted to see, who he wanted you to see before you moved in. This is not suddenly a new character development. This is just who he is as a person. Get out of there, make sure people know what's going on, and get somewhere safe. And if you're in the audience and you ever find yourself in a similar situation where your partner suddenly drops their veil and becomes extremely different the moment you two move in, get out of that situation. Look at local resources, whether it's domestic violence resources or just whatever your area offers you, and don't be afraid to ask for help. What OP is going through right now in this post is dangerous and can 100% lead to far worse behaviors down the line. What we read here is just testing and probing the waters to see what kind of control he can get away with. Buckle in for this one, and if you're listening to this on a Bluetooth speaker, maybe don't for this one. That's my warning to you. I'm also adding this here because this 100% needs to be in place. Massive content warning for mentions of CSA and just a lot of fucked up stuff, honestly. Anyways, here we go. Oddney5565. My boyfriend and his mother have an incestuous relationship? ? My boyfriend, 23 male, and I, 22 female, have been dating for 6 months now. We were friends for 3 years before dating. I am also pregnant. He has been an absolutely amazing boyfriend, but I am noticing weird things with his mother that are really creeping me out and making me question this relationship and this pregnancy. I've been pretty much living with my boyfriend under his mother's roof for about 4 months now. I sleep here every single night. She's a single mother and in her 60s. My boyfriend's dad is remarried, and he has told me that since the divorce, his mom has been depressed and never been quite the same. They divorced when he was quite young, maybe around 7 years old. She still cries to this day about the divorce and infidelity, as well as his father remarrying. And I don't think she has ever truly gotten over him. She does not date and hasn't since the divorce. My boyfriend had told me multiple times in arguments with his mother, she'll constantly compare him to his father and say things like, "You're just like your father, you don't care about me." Also, want to note that my boyfriend looks exactly like his father. I noticed pretty early on, it seems like she takes out her feelings about her ex-husband on my boyfriend. When we first started dating, he would say that his mother is jealous that she's not spending as much time with him anymore, and she's been like that with all of his exes. I notice she doesn't make much of an effort to talk to me. She's a bit awkward, and when she's home, she pretty much just stays locked in her room. He says she likes me, and she's always kind when she talks to me. But for some reason, my intuition is strongly telling me otherwise. There have been multiple times where we pick up food, and he asks her if she wants anything, and she says no. When we come back with food, she'll send him texts or say to him personally that we only care about ourselves and not her. I noticed these red flags early on, but brushed it off. Here is where things get really weird and twisted. I don't want to believe this is what's going on, and I feel crazy for even having these thoughts, but it's hard to find another explanation about things that I have heard. One Saturday morning, everything was going as normal. My boyfriend and I woke up together, did our morning routines, and decided to play a couple games on the PS5 together as we normally do on weekends. I was feeling tired as I am pregnant and the hormones have been making me super exhausted. So after a couple of games, I decided to take a little nap. He turned off the PS5 and put a YouTube video on the TV kind of loud. He said he would make me breakfast while I napped. So I dozed off as he left the room. It sounded like he went straight to his mother's room and shut the door. Her door is creaky and I can hear every time it opens as it is right next to his room. He often goes into his mother's room and talks to her for a while, so I paid this no mind and continued to rest. I am a very heavy sleeper, by the way. Not sure how much time passed, but I woke up to the sound of banging on the wall. Very loud. I then heard the door open and him say, "Oh, so you..." And I didn't hear the rest, but it almost sounded like, "Oh, so you want to be bad, huh?" Or something along those lines, and the loud banging continued, now sounding like it was in the hallway right outside the door. I heard mumbling that literally sounded like the way he talks to me when we have sex. I sat up in bed confused and listened for a couple more minutes. I could have sworn I heard her, gasp or something. At this point, I was freaked out because it literally sounded like sex noises. I got up and sat in front of the TV, which is next to the door, and put it on mute. Right after I did that, the banging stopped, almost as if they heard me awake and stopped doing whatever they were doing. I then heard shuffling and his mother say, "Lie," and he said, "Yes, ma'am." I heard him go downstairs for a few minutes, then he came back into the room with a bowl of cereal. Mind you, usually, when he makes me breakfast, it's pancakes, bacon, eggs, and hash browns. I straight up asked him, what was that noise? He looked super nervous and then said, "I was arguing with my mom." I asked about what, and he was stuttering nonsense and said he was arguing about a Christmas present? I thought this made no sense. I asked him if the argument got physical because I was hearing loud noises, and he said no. I was pressing him, asking him what that could have been. Was he moving furniture or something? It was very loud. He began pacing around the room nervously and said quietly, "I'm filled with regret." After an hour of pressing him about it and him telling me it was just an argument, he didn't know what noise I was talking about, etc., I dropped it because I literally thought I was going insane. I know what it sounded like, but I didn't want to believe that something so twisted was going on. And the fact that they were doing it while I am in the next room, sleeping, and pregnant, I was literally uncontrollably shaken, extremely disturbed at what I just heard. It was clear as day what it was, but I genuinely thought I was maybe losing it. Later that night, I brought it up again and implied I think something was going on, or maybe the argument got physical and he shouldn't be afraid to tell me. He then was like, "Want me to ask my mom if we were hitting each other?" He then goes to his mom's room and asks her if anything went on, and was telling her how I think they got into a physical fight. He comes back to me and tells me his mother said that it's just pregnancy hormones, and I'm overthinking. And then she proceeded to text him, "We don't live like that," which he showed me. I took a day to think about it and came to the conclusion that I am not crazy. I know what I heard. I started thinking back on if I ever heard weird things or felt weird vibes concerning his mother, and it turns out there were a couple things I overheard in the past that made me look at them sideways. Some examples. 1. I heard him walking up the stairs behind her and say, "I can still feel around," and she laughed. 2. I once heard the sound of clapping coming from her room when he was in there talking. 3. Heard them in the kitchen semi-arguing, and him saying to her, "I'm trying my best, how can I be better for you?" As if they're in a relationship or something. 4. He once told me that as a child, the doctor thought his mother was molesting him because he saw her hair wrapped around my boyfriend's penis. Jesus Christ. 5. Now that I think about it, I think I have heard banging or weird noises before when they are talking for long periods of time, whether it be in her room or downstairs in the living room and kitchen. 6. All day, every day, his mother is constantly texting him, bothering him about coming home, seeing what he's doing, etc. 7. One day, he said he was going to make me breakfast a separate time from the one mentioned above, and I fell back asleep. His mom was also home in her room. I woke up to him coming back in the room, freshly showered, with only a towel around his waist with no breakfast for me. This is unusual because usually when he says he's going to make me breakfast, he goes to make it right away and wakes me up with it. Also, he never showers at this time of day. After hearing the weird stuff I have now heard, it makes me wonder if he was in his mother's room. 8. I once heard his mother go downstairs while he was in the kitchen and he thought I was sleeping. I then heard him saying, "Come on, Mom," and her laughing and walking away. He kept calling her to come back and she goes, "Not tonight, baby." Could he have been asking her for sex? It has now been a couple of weeks since the incident where I heard the loud banging. It has been running through my mind every single day. His mother already gave me uncomfortable and off-putting vibes since the beginning, but now I feel very paranoid and creeped out about her and their relationship. I have since pressed him about it again and pretty much told him what I heard sounded very weird and like something sexual was going on. We argued about it for like 2 days straight. He insists that him and his mother do not have a weird relationship, and him and his mother have no idea what loud noises I was hearing. How can they have possibly not heard something so loud, especially when the noises were coming from where I heard both of their voices? He has tried to explain it away in every possible way, but nothing makes sense. He said it could have been the dog, neighbors, or footsteps, but I've been living here for 4 months now and know what all of those things sound like. This was absolutely none of those things. I wish I had opened the door to get physical proof because now it just feels like I'm being lied to. I have been doubting myself, thinking, could this actually be possible? But when I think back to what I heard, it was so clear. I am slowly putting the pieces together and I don't know what to do. Today, I feel like I have reached my breaking point. I don't know if I'm being paranoid now, but something that happened today has made me overthink this situation even more. We were hanging out as normal. I noticed him and his mother texting back and forth a bunch. He then went downstairs to make me soup as I was feeling nauseous. I thought I heard her door quickly open and close, which is weird because she usually swings it open loudly and I hear the creak. She also has super loud footsteps, but I didn't hear her going downstairs, so I thought I was tripping maybe. Then I heard the banging coming from downstairs, which I figured was just my boyfriend cleaning and making food. The soup only takes 5 minutes to make. It's a packaged soup. He was downstairs for about 30 to 40 minutes. He comes back upstairs with my soup, and then I hear his mother loudly coming upstairs. So I was right. I did hear her door open as if she was sneaking downstairs so that I would not hear. I asked him what took so long, and he nervously was saying a bunch of things that didn't make sense. He made no mention of his mother being downstairs. I then asked if he was talking to someone, and he nervously said, "Yeah, my mom." Then he accused me of being paranoid about his mom and that I think I'm hearing things. I made no mention of his mom or hearing things, even though I did hear banging. So does this mean he knows he was being loud and I could have heard it? It seemed like projection and him feeling guilty about something he's doing with his mother. At this point, I do not trust him being around his mother, and I am disturbed and drained. I am horrified and don't know what to do. I know this all sounds so crazy and outlandish, but my gut is telling me something is wrong. There's no mistaking what I heard that day. Am I being crazy, or should I trust my gut and what I know I heard? I feel like the signs and things I have heard now are so blatantly obvious, and I cannot ignore it anymore or try to explain it away. It genuinely seems as if something incestuous is going on with my boyfriend and his mother. I have always said I do not want to be a single mother or raise a child in a broken home, and now I am 3 months pregnant. I am also in fear that if he does have a sick and twisted relationship with his mother, who's to say he wouldn't try to do the same with our child? I am seriously considering terminating the pregnancy and breaking up with him. What should I do? And does it sound like I'm overreacting, or should I trust my gut? So, before we get to part 2, if you accused your significant other of having an incestuous relationship with their mother, and their response wasn't rage, but instead, nuh-uh, that's a big fucking red flag, dog. And I'd say trust your gut. Part 2. 2 months later. Hi everyone, it has been a little while since I made that post in AmIOverReacting asking for advice. I appreciate those who had kind words and genuine advice. Thank you. Sorry if this post is a little all over the place and long, as was my last one. A lot has gone on in the time since I last posted, and I'm just venting it all out and documenting my experience here. Then link to the original post. I want to start by addressing a couple of things people commented on my last post. 1. People asked why I never go in the kitchen or make myself food. I'm not lazy at all, and I gladly would make him and myself food because I actually love cooking. But he would never let me go in the kitchen because he says he's embarrassed of the state of it. I have offered numerous times to cook, but he would never let me. One day, when him and his mother were at work, I did go peek in the kitchen to see what the fuss was about and why he wouldn't let me in there. It was a mess. The sink overflowing with dishes, cabinet doors falling off, clutter everywhere, and dog piss on the floor, so I guess I see why. 2. Why did I never leave the room? It is an extremely small house. His mother does nothing around the house, and it is a mess. And he gave up on trying to clean because she and the dog destroy everything. Downstairs consists of the kitchen, bathroom, and living room. He didn't want me in the kitchen, and nobody ever uses the living room. I only would need to go downstairs to use the bathroom. We both stay in the room together, as that was literally the only habitable space for us. We have had numerous conversations about how I feel something weird was going on that day I heard the banging, and I feel like something is very off about his relationship with his mother. I straight up told him it sounded like they were having sex. I also told him that if something like this was going on, it has clearly been something he has been dealing with since a child, and I would be willing to get him help, but he needs to realize that this is fucking sick. And whether or not the relationship was sexual, she clearly is emotionally incestuous with him, and he needs to do something about it or he will lose me forever. I cried to him and expressed how if such a thing was going on, not only do I feel sorry for him, and I can empathize as I have been a victim of childhood sexual abuse, but I need him to understand how I feel being dragged into such a fucked up situation where I'm just a girl who fell in love with him, having no idea what I was getting myself into. He has never outright admitted that something was going on that day / in general, but things he has said and his behavior leads me to believe he was being taken advantage of by his mother. I've straight up said, if I am crazy or having delusions to think something so sick is going on, I will gladly get help or check myself in somewhere. To which he has said, "You're not crazy. I don't think you're crazy." In our conversations about this, he has cried. He has said he is probably traumatized by her, and he has said things like, "She's sick." He expressed to me how he wants to get out of there and be away from her. I could see in his face when confronting him about this, he looks visibly traumatized and just sick. He gets worked up in a way that to me just screams that he is traumatized. Sometimes he hyperventilates when talking about it and stutters and his voice cracks. The things he says feels like he's trying to tell me / confirm it without saying it. He once said, "I'll tell you more about my mother and my childhood when we're out of here," meaning moved out. Maybe it was uncomfortable to talk about, especially because we still were around her. All of these things feel to me like subtle confirmations. Since then, I have noticed he has created distance from her. He would leave the door wide open anytime he stepped out. He tells me he wants me to trust him, and I can go downstairs if I ever am feeling weird. He has expressed how much he truly loves me and does not want to lose me over this, and has been proving it with his actions. He also has made a massive effort to move out of there and away from his mother. I am still pregnant. I actually had made an appointment to terminate the pregnancy because of this. I was in the worst mental state and depression I've ever been in. My appointment fell on the last day it was legal to terminate in my state, and it was 2 hours away because the clinics closest to me doesn't have available appointments. I ended up missing this appointment. Looking back now, it feels like fate, maybe? I now am in a better mental state, and I have grown to love my baby, and I am glad that he is still here. It's a boy. I expressed to him that I would not ever feel comfortable with his mother around my baby, and he agreed with me. Another subtle confirmation to me. My boyfriend and I have since moved out and got our own place. We are going on 2 weeks here now. I haven't brought up the situation again as we have been busy with moving and I am giving it some time. But I do believe now that we are in our own place, he will eventually open up to me about this hopefully, and we can seek some sort of therapy / professional help. Lastly, I want to note some disturbing behavior from his mother I noticed in the weeks leading up to our move. We went out to dinner with her on 2 separate occasions where she says weird, inappropriate things. My boyfriend was talking about the food, saying that every time he comes to this restaurant, his food comes out different. To which she replied, "Every time I come, it's different." During the car ride there, we all rode in the same car, we were talking about how my boyfriend used to have 2 jobs, but he left one of them because he didn't have time for anything anymore. And then she says, "No time for sex." Also, he was talking about how the car had good seat warmers, and she made a comment about how the heat feels on his balls. Very weird and uncomfortable. Ew. A couple of days before we officially moved out, she sent him a nasty text that was reeking of jealousy. He read it to me and showed me. She was berating him and calling us all types of names, saying she's so glad we're going to live happily ever after, sarcastically obviously. She hopes our baby doesn't come out with issues. Clearly backhanded and being fucking nasty. That we're selfish and horrible people, and she never wants to see him again. Clearly lashing out because she's jealous and angry that her son, that she is so in love with, is moving out and starting a life without her. Mind you, this is a woman in her 60s, acting like this towards her son. Despicable. The last time we were at the house packing our final things up to move to our apartment, I think she was trying to ask him for sex, the sick fuck that she is. If it's not something sexual going on, she was still being weird and making him, and me, uncomfortable. He was downstairs packing some things, left the bedroom door wide open, and as he was coming back up the stairs, she comes out of her room. He tells me that he's about to leave, and she's like, "Why didn't you wake me up?" Innocent enough, right? She then asks if he's going to walk the dog, I believe trying to get him away from me for enough time. Then I hear her ask, can he hang out with her for old time's sake? To which he tells her no. She starts mumbling. I make out the word cuddle, and then she's like, real quick, just 5 seconds please. And he tells her no again. I hear her say, "You're never coming back," sounding sad. When he comes back into the room, he looks visibly uncomfortable and his face is red. The energy was just off and uncomfortable, which leads me to believe this was not an innocent interaction on her part, and it was clear to me he wanted to be far away from her. I then go into the hallway where she's still standing there, like a creep, like trying to wait for him to be alone. And I tell her I'll go walk the dog with him. Me and him walk the dog, put our final things in the car, and finally got the fuck out of there. Dealing with the situation has not been easy in the slightest. I have chosen to move forward with him because I see the effort he has been making to make me feel more secure. I do believe he realizes how weird this relationship is with his mother, and I truly empathize and I do love him and want to get him help because I believe he's a victim, and this is not his fault, and he is surely traumatized by this lady. I'm already traumatized by her, and I haven't dealt with her for nearly as long as him. I hope and pray that from now on, we are no longer having to deal with this evil woman and her issues and focus on our own family. Any advice or helpful input is welcome. Thank you to those who listen and care. I knew this was going to be a roller coaster, but I didn't know it was going to be like this. I tried to fluff the episode out with about 15 minutes of extra posts just to kind of lighten the load, I suppose. Because I knew this was going to be painful, but this is... Oh, that boy needs therapy. Therapy and to get the fuck away from his mother. Good God, if you can even call her that. It's been 6 months since the last update, and I can only hope that, since then, OP has hopefully had a very healthy baby boy. They're living in their own environment, as far away from the mother as possible. And hopefully, OP's boyfriend has gotten the help that he definitely, desperately needs to get past this. Holy hell. What a fucking nightmare situation.